Good morning, everybody. It's Sunday, January 19th. It's snowy and cold here. Got to be really careful out there because there's a big sheet of ice underneath the snow and it's dangerous. So, if you don't have to go outside, don't. We're on day 3 of our fasting, 72 hours by the time you watch this. So, congratulations to those that have made it that far. I'm going to go for 4 days. I'm not sure about 5, but I'm feeling really good. It definitely helps to take the vitamin D and the electrolytes and the extra magnesium. And I want to remind you, if you are deficient in something, like for the last 3 weeks, we have had snow and ice on the ground, so I have not been outside very much, and I know my vitamin D is low. So if I'm taking 5,000 international units of vitamin D to maintain, I'm going to need 10 or 15,000 to rebuild up again. Okay, so talk to your doctor, but know, first of all, that vitamin D has a very short fast life. In 24 hours, you have pretty much lost half of what you've taken. So it doesn't stick around a long time, and it's very easy to get depleted in the winter months. So I would highly encourage you to talk to your doctor about taking even more than what you think you need. And they did a study in Hawaii on quite a large population. I don't remember exactly how many, but they were testing surfers out on the water, surfing 8 to 10 hours a day. And you would think with the reflection of the water and the sun coming down on them that their vitamin D levels would get toxic, and they didn't. And by far the easiest and best way to get vitamin D is from the sun. And earlier in the day and midday are best, although midday in the south can be really scorching. But when you start early in the day, you get your circadian rhythm set, and it impacts the retina in your eye as well. And lots of good things happen in your body when you do that. So I would highly encourage you to get up with the sun, get outside, watch the sunrise, get good early morning light into your eyes, onto your skin, as much of your skin as possible. So if you have the ability to go buff, go buff. If don't obviously do it in a way that offends neighbors and family, but wear a bathing suit. Do whatever you have to get as much sun as possible early in the day. Now, the other thing same thing with magnesium. It's really easy to get depleted on it. Like I've told you before, 85% of people in the world are depleted in magnesium. A lot has to do with our current farming practices. It's just not in the soil, so it doesn't get in the food. But when you're depleted, you need to take more to get it back up and then less to maintain. So if you're not feeling like, if you're still constipated, if your heart rate's still high, if you're having trouble sleeping, anything that you would consider irritable, anxiousness, trouble shutting your mind off, anything like that, you might consider taking a little bit more magnesium or a different brand and see if that helps you. A general electrolyte while you're fasting is absolutely important too for the other trace minerals. And I can tell you it makes a huge difference to do those 3 things. You're not going to lose energy. You're not going to be hungry. And it's just, it's just a normal day. You're not feeling like you're foregoing anything and being depleted. So now I want to talk a little bit about fats, white fat and brown fat. And I can tell you when I did surgery, it was something that I noticed that smokers, for example, have a lot more white fat and less brown fat. Young people have more brown fat than they have white fat. And I'd asked the surgeons that I was working with what they thought about it, and most of them didn't think too much. But quite a bit of study has been done on white and brown fat in the last few years. And brown fat is thermogenic, which means that it produces heat. And by doing that, you're warmer, you're burning more calories, you're healthier. White fat we get more of as we get older, and it's more just a storage depot. It doesn't really do anything. It doesn't keep us warm as well. It doesn't produce energy. In fact, I would say that in a way it takes energy away because we're carrying added weight around without any benefits. So how do you get more brown fat? One is by exercising. The more we exercise, the more we use our body, the more brown fat we have, and we actually can convert some white fat to brown fat. Green tea is another outstanding way to increase the amount of brown fat to white fat. And it also is high in polyphenols and antioxidants, low in calories. You can drink it while you're on these fasts. So it's a wonderful way to rehydrate yourself and get added benefits above and beyond water. The other way is to be in a cold environment, 60 degrees or lower, for up to 6 hours a day. So obviously that's not what a cold plunge. What this is literally turn your house temperature down into the 50s. And by doing so, you're going to convert white fat to brown fat, and you're going to get your ratios better. But if you don't do any of these things, you're going to continue to see a loss of brown fat and an increase in white fat. You're going to be cold. You're going to have more body weight. You're going to have a harder time losing weight. Now, as we talk about losing weight with this fat, don't be surprised if you don't see it immediately. My experience has been is that, you're decreasing what you're taking in, your body's in ketosis, and like I said, you can use a Keto Mojo to track that. They're fairly inexpensive. There's other monitors out there too, but to see that you're actually getting into ketosis. If you took a weight circumference before you started, and let's say it was 36, and you do it now, it's probably still 36. It takes time for the body to kind of redistribute everything and to remodulate and remodel your body. So don't expect immediate results like, well, I've been fasting for 4 days and nothing's changed. It probably won't. You will notice it over the next few weeks. You're going to notice that all of a sudden your body's revved up, you have a little bit more energy, your clothes start fitting better. Like I'm noticing right around my ribs, right underneath, that I'm getting more hollow instead of it being rotund. And so you're going to start noticing remodeling in your body. It's a really good idea at that point to do exercise, especially strengthening exercise and balance exercise, because the reality is as we get older, our balance starts to falter. And if we don't, it's very true, use it or lose it. So if you're not doing things to keep your balance good, to keep both legs strong, to keep your body's ability, when you're balancing, let's say on one foot, all the little muscles in your body get involved, right? It's not just the big ones. And if we don't keep those strong, then we're much more likely to fall and hurt ourselves. And I've said it before, broken hips are really dangerous. They often lead to pneumonia and death. So you don't want to go down that road. You want to stay strong and fit and be able to play with your kids and grandkids, with your dogs, be able to go ride horses, do all the things until your 90s. And there's no reason you can't if you continue to use your body. So, while you're doing the dishes, stand on one foot, stand on the other, see how long you can do it. There's exercises where you step across with one foot and then out, and you kind of make a square with it. And I'll maybe do some videos in the future on this, because one thing that I notice is a lot of times the people that are talking about health are in their 20s, 30s, 40s. Well, a lot of the stuff that's easy in your 20s, 30s, 40s are much harder in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. So let's look at somebody that's in their 60s and how they're actually managing that. And the other thing, I can confess that I was very, very active in my 20s and 30s, not very active in my 40s, came back a little bit and was playing competitive tennis again, and then dropped off again. So I'm a regular person that has done what almost all of you probably have done, and that's walked away from physical activity. And when you're coming back from it, it's much harder than if you're maintaining it. Okay. If, like me, you put the extra weight on, it's much harder to lose it than if you've never put it on at all. And so I get it. Okay. I'm saying that I'm just like you all. I'm not some saint that has been, rigorous with exercise and diet. And I grew up on the worst diet in the world. My mom was a working mom. She believed every commercial on TV, so we ate margarine and not butter. We ate TV dinners. We ate the processed foods. And that's what we had a candy drawer growing up. I mean, there was never a shortage of sugar in the house. The drink of choice was, Pepsi. And so we didn't have fresh milk. We did. I mean, it was just really, the cheese was American cheese. I mean, when I look back at it, it's like, how did I stay alive? Because both my parents were heavy smokers. So we're in a house with smokers and eating the worst food known to man. And my only saving grace, I think, was that I was really active and I was a tennis player and I rode my bike everywhere. And because my mom worked and my dad worked, there was no one to give us rides. So we either walked it or we rode our bikes. And we lived in a community that nothing was really close. Everything was a couple miles away at least. So, you were putting in 6, 10, 12, 20 miles a day on your bike. I walked to school, which was about 2 miles away, and I did that every day. So, that was a 4 mile walk every day. And then I did sports on top of that. So I think that God was looking out for me basically. But the reality is, in that process, what harm did I do to my body? Can I reverse it? I believe we can, but I also believe that the more damage you do, the harder it is to reverse. I mean, it's even if you look at like remodeling a house, right? If the water damage is so bad, you often have to tear everything out and start from scratch. Where if you get it early, maybe you just have to sand it down and paint it. Okay, so um, for you younger folks, I would highly encourage start now. Don't wait. For those of you that are my age, it's not the end of the story. We all can fix this, but it takes some diligence. Okay. I'll tell you in my own, because like I just told you, I ate sugar like it was going out of style. And I kind of foo-fooed that sugar was bad for you. It's like, well, it doesn't make you hyperactive. I'm not hyperactive, and it doesn't impact intelligence because I've done quite fine. I graduated cum laude. I wasn't stupid by any means, and I was in a very competitive program. There were over 800 people competing for 6 slots, and I got in. So, I've been able to compete at the highest level academically. But where would I have been had I eaten better? And one of the things that happens, sugar is very addictive. It's, as addictive as cocaine and oxycodone and fentanyl and all of that. So to get off of it takes some doing. And um, when I first retired, I moved away from town. And so I had been kind of a coffee drinker. I'd stop at the coffee stand and I'd get a 20-ounce white chocolate mocha, and I'd have two or three of those a day. And the coffee wasn't bad and the milk wasn't bad, but there's whipped cream in there and the white chocolate, so a lot of sugar. When I moved out to the country, there was no coffee stand near, so I started making my own coffee, but I switched to creamer. Well, that creamer is really high in seed oils and sugar as well. And so when I started the fasting lifestyle and intermittent fasting and saying, this is not good for me, I'm not getting the milk that I needed because for my bones, but I'm getting a lot of junk. I mean, that creamer you shouldn't even have in your house. It tastes good, I'm not going to lie, but bad for you. And drinking black coffee just, has been a process. I will say that I'm doing it on this fast. I'm so amazed at myself because I used to just hate it. But it's, I switched back to half and half, and then using things like pumpkin pie spice or some cinnamon or something that doesn't have sugar in it to flavor my coffee. And you got to get a little creative. But if you need that added flavor or enjoy that added flavor and you're trying to reduce your sugar, you need to stay away from those creamers. You need to stay away from those artificial flavors. Um, and you may go through some withdrawals with it. You may get cranky. You may have trouble sleeping. You may have cravings. And you just got to stick with it. It's add more protein in, add more healthy fat. You can have as much butter as you want. You can eat bacon. You can eat steak. Um, you can have real cheese because it's fermented and it's high in calcium and other nutrients, high in protein. But you need to stay away from the sweet stuff. And as you switch from sweet to savory, your taste buds are going to change. You're going to get to the point where those vegetables and those fruits and the meat taste way better to you. Things that you didn't used to like all of a sudden taste good to you and you actually crave them. Um, and if you're going to have fruit, eat the whole fruit. No juicing. Stay away from juice of any. I wouldn't even have your green juices. Eat the food the way God designed it, because that fiber is important to you. You've got to feed that mitochondria. You have more mitochondria in the bacteria in your gut than you have cells in your whole body. There's trillions of them. You need to feed them or they will revolt and they'll stop doing their job. And one of their jobs is to make ATP, which is energy. So if you're lacking in energy, you probably haven't been feeding your microbiome and they're not happy with you when they're on strike. So now you need to feed them. Okay. So when we come off this fat or this fat, we're going to start by having some bone broth, and that's high in proteins that are going to reline and repair the intestinal lining. And then we're going to eat protein and good fat, so I made some hard-boiled eggs. I'm going to have those and some avocado. And then my first real meal, I'm still kind of thinking on, but I'm kind of thinking of a roasted butternut squash with bacon and cheese and maybe some dried cranberries. But it's going to be low on sugars. Okay, it's just going to be really high in fiber. There might be some spinach or I might syrup some bok choy and do a steak. I don't know really yet. There's no traveling in my area. The weather has been bad for 3 weeks now of ice and snow and sub 20-degree temperatures, and it's supposed to get down below zero with wind chill down to -10. And I'm not going anywhere. I got to walk out to the barn and take care of the horses and, pick up poop and do that kind of thing and, move hay bales around. And so I'm doing some exercise, going to clean out my freezer because I know I have some meats down at the bottom that I can't get to, and I'm going to pull them up to the top. But luckily I have enough food to get me through another couple of weeks. Gone through 40 pounds of bird seed. I mean, that's just crazy in 3 weeks. But the birds have been really, really hungry. There's not much source of food for them. So, anyways, that's that on the diet. Hang in there. If you just quit today at 3 o'clock, your 72 hours, that's okay. That is a wonderful long fast. Lots of positive things going on with that. You've gotten into autophagy. You've created stem cells. You're burning fat. Your reset is pretty much done. If you can go longer, that reset gets more powerful, but you've already accomplished that. So kudos to you. Don't worry that it isn't longer. That is plenty long. Okay. And you did it. And now what I would encourage is to mix it up. Okay. Fast, do a 16-8 or 18-6 is even better. So what does that mean? What's an 18-6? That means that you don't eat breakfast. You eat your main meal sometime between, 11 and 2. And then you have dinner. So if you eat at 11, then you want to eat dinner before 5. If you eat at 2, you want to eat dinner before 7. So you're going to limit that eating window to 6 hours, and you can pretty much eat anything you want. I don't want you calorie counting. Calories are bogus. Okay, all calories are not created equal. It's what happens when you put a food out and a bomb kilometer, and it how much energy does it take to explode it is what it does, and that's not how it works in our body. So forget calories. Instead, I want you to think of a colorful plate. First and foremost, a colorful plate, and then secondly, no refined carbs. Okay. If it comes in a box, if it comes in a bag, gone. Okay. And getting back to real foods the way God designed them. He knew what we needed. Okay. He made food, things that are edible, to be able to be digested and used properly by our body. Okay. So that's your goals for this year. Colorful, no refined foods, and whole. Okay. Now, so you're going to try 18-6, and you're going to do that for 2 or 3 days in a row, and then go ahead and have a feast. You want to mix it up, but the more you can do a couple back to back, the better it is. So, if you go every other, you're going to get a little bit less benefit than if you do 18-6 for 3 days and then feast for a day or two, and then 18-6 for 3 days and then feast for a day or two. Okay. And then if you can throw a 24 in there, boom, go for it. If you can throw a 48 in there, once a month or 2 months, go for it. But keep it a little bit random. You want your body kind of guessing what's going on because, again, we were created to be um, hunters and gatherers. And when you're a hunter, you really don't ever know when you're going to have food again. Even when you're farming, you really don't know when things are going to be ready to pick. Weather's changes, maybe your crops are doing really well and then a cold spell comes in and everything dies off or slows down. And you might have thought you were going to harvest on the 15th and it might not be till the 20th. You don't know when berries are going to ripen. You don't know when fruit's going to ripen. We have a season for it, but we don't necessarily know exactly when. And so, over the years, we've learned to preserve and how to hold foods over with various techniques from salting to freezing to canning, burying food, fruit cellars, all of those kind of things. But before we had all of that, we were dependent on God and when it became available, and that would often mean times of plenty and times of lack. And our bodies are designed that way, okay? So you want to kind of recreate a little bit of that. Now, am I glad that I had some food put aside for this cold spell? Absolutely. I'm not worried because I had plenty of food preserved for a month or so. But I feel for the people that don't because the roads out there are crazy. I fall into the barn. Luckily I still have strong bones and I didn't hurt myself, but that could have been catastrophic if I was frail. Break a hip out here, nobody's going to know I'm gone for days. I mean, so, and I'm out in the cold and freeze to death. I mean, it could have been terrible. And the problem is there's a sheet of ice and then the snow fell on top of it. So you can't see the ice. You don't know where you're stepping, whether it's ice or just more snow. So, you know, we need to stay strong. We need to keep our balance. We need to be careful, but we also want to live life. You don't want to just sit down and die. I plan on being on a horse until my 90s or until God takes us home. And I think we'll go home before I'm in my 90s. But I'm not giving up my riding. I'm not giving up my lifestyle. I like to garden. I like to be with the animals. I like to be out in nature. I'm not giving that up. So how do I maintain it? I stay strong. Um, Still going to give you warnings about what's going on in the world. I'm pleased that Hamas did give up some of the hostages and the hostage exchange is going on. But I don't trust them. They are gleeful about defeating Israel, which I don't think they did at all, but they did get a much better deal on the hostages than Israel did. Israel's getting a handful of hostages back for thousands of, terrorists and killers, and they're just going to go and be soldiers again and fight. So this is just a delay. It's allowing Hamas to refuel. It's allowing Iran to give them more weapons. But it's in God's hands, and I think, like I've told you before, I think this is a Psalm 83 war, and Psalm 83 talks about that at the point they're basically celebrating, and then sudden destruction comes upon them. I do believe at some point, and I don't know when it is, Hamas is going to be destroyed, Hezbollah is going to be destroyed, Iran's going to be severely crippled, the Houthis are going to be totally destroyed. And there is a period before the Ezekiel 38 war where Israel lives in peace in unwalled villages. They obviously are not living in peace right now. They have wars going on 7 fronts. But if this all gets resolved in the next year, and I think God is using President Trump to get some of this done, that Israel will be living in peace. I think that they will go and destroy Iran's nuclear. I think they will destroy Damascus because the area around Damascus is where a lot of artillery and stuff is stored. And there's going to be relative peace for a while. How long will that be? I don't know. It might be a month. It might be a year. It might be 5 years. But it's going to be long enough that they let their guard down. And it's going to be at that point that Ezekiel 38 happens, where the king from the north, Gog and Magog war happens. So I do believe we'll see Isaiah 17, which is the destruction of Damascus, and the Psalm 83 war happen first. And I think we will see it. As much as I'd love to go home, I think that we're going to see a whole lot more. I mean, the rapture is a rescue mission. So it's going to get really brutal before we go home. And do I want to go home? Absolutely. I've said it before. It really reminds me of when you're short in the military. I mean, I remember my last year in the Philippines. I loved the Philippines. The Filipino people were wonderful. I was ready to come home. I miss my family. I miss my friends. And you get short-itis. You're thinking about going home. You're counting days, right? But you still have to do your job. You still have to go to work and do the best that you can and make a difference. You don't get to check out. So as Christians, we can't check out. In fact, if anything, we need to get, as the time gets shorter, we need to get more vocal and more emboldened for the kingdom, because I don't think there's any greater reward than to be told by Jesus himself, well done, good and faithful servant. And he's going to say that if we are bold for the kingdom and we're bringing souls on board. That one soul that is hesitant, that we can show that the kingdom is absolutely the way to go, that's what we're going to get rewarded for. We're not going to get rewarded for the nice house or the fancy car. We're going to get rewarded for souls. We're going to get rewarded for being kind and helpful and doing the right thing for people. So make that your mission. Okay. It is your mission. It is your commission. The Great Commission is to go out and make disciples of the world. So not only are you helping people come to the Lord, you're helping them walk on the narrow path. And the path to the Lord is narrow. You're not to veer to the right or to the left. You're supposed to stay on board. And part of staying on board is not quitting. It's to finish the race. Yes, the finish line is getting in view. We're absolutely, I believe, the last generation. And there's, the curse of 80 years that isn't talked about very much, but I think is very relevant. Israel's never been a country longer than 80 years. Well, we're at 77 years this May 14th, I think it is. So that means that the good chance that the tribulation is going to happen sometime in the next 3 to 5 years. And there's other prophetic voices that have said that we've gotten a reprieve for this next year, or this next presidential term, which is 4 years. But let's face it, the last year of a presidential term, they're already campaigning for the next one. So I kind of see we have a 3-year reprise, maybe 4. Could it be before then that we go home? Absolutely. We need to be ready at all times, but we need to be acting like we're also going to be here for a while. So, I think that's the hardest thing about living in these end times, is not knowing, how far out to plan. And Jesus said, don't worry about tomorrow. Today has enough troubles of its own. So that's his answer to it. Just live today the fullest that you can. Take as good a care of your health as you can, because our bodies want to live, and life is a gift, right? We were breathed into life with the breath of God, the ruach. Okay. So it's a gift. It's a beautiful gift. Let's use it for let's say thank you to God by doing good deeds, by sharing the gospel, by getting involved in our communities. I do think that evil knows also that its day is short. And what happens when you're if you think you're going to go away to prison for the rest of life, do you try, no matter what you do, are you going to be good or bad? You're probably going to go, well, I'm going to be punished anyway, so I'm just going to go out and have a good old time. That's kind of how I think Satan and his minions are, okay? He's going to bring all he knows is destruction. He's the father of lies. He only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He's not going to lessen that up, because he doesn't stand a chance. He already lost. He knows the final outcome. He's going to be thrown in the pit. Well, the fiery pit, right? The lake of fire. He knows that. So he's going to cause as much destruction. And I'll give you an example. I just saw it in the news today. Oklahoma, which I tend to think of as being a fairly godly state. They had a priestess for Medusa. Remember the one with all the snaky hair? Do a incantation in front of their assembly, and now they've decided no more prayer at their assembly. Do you see what's happening? This is a spiritual battle, and you need to be armed up every day, and you need to be in the Word every day. You need to be asking the Holy Spirit to guide you. You need to give up control to Him so that He keeps you on that narrow path, because it's not always where you think it's going to be. If you do that, He will reward you. I guarantee it. He will reward you with health. He will reward you with godly people in your life. He will reward you by giving you your desires. Your dreams and desires come from God for the most part. I think we're born with them. I had a love for horses since I can remember. I've had a love for animals since I can remember. I've never wanted to live in the city. I've lived in the city a couple times. I didn't particularly enjoy it. I made the most of it, but I much prefer being out here in the country. But my brother, who was born in the same house, raised by the same parents, he's quite content not having any animals. He sees them more as a bother than anything. He's terrified of horses. So we're like exact opposites. We're only 3 years apart, but our dreams and desires are far, far different. So why is that? Because I think God gave us very different dreams, and that's okay. In fact, it'd be a boring world if we all had the same dreams and we were all the same personality and that we were all these automated robot people like they want. I don't want to live in that world. That's a crazy, stupid world. I like the variety. I like that there's even people that I kind of banter with, that push me, that make me think, that I have to defend my thoughts to. I think that's a good thing. We shouldn't be worried about stating our opinions. We might get censored. I don't like that, because you know what? When you stifle ideas and creativity and thinking and discussion, you're stifling answers too. So we really need to be able to look at all of that. So stay involved. This next year is going to be, I think, crazy. And it's going to have a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And the best way to stay even keel is stay in the Word. Continue to be vocal about the kingdom in your community. Bring beauty to the world in your gardens. I mean, I love spring and summer because you know what? God brings me flowers every single day. I have bouquets all over the house. I go out and it smells wonderful. And I love going out and picking my own food. It tastes so much better. And it's just such a joyous time, right? This time of year, I'm not a big winter person, but I also don't want to mumble and groan about it. So I'm making the most of it. I know that just like fasting isn't much fun. Fasting is like a winter. That's when all the rebuilding happens. That's when we're allowing things to get nurtured, and the buds on the trees are developing during the winter, and it's not a time of nothing happening. It just isn't the big growth, right? But we need that time of rest and revitalization for the growth to happen. So I trust God. He's got me in his hand. He's never going to forsake me. He's never going to let me out of his clutch. He has proved that to me. And I know what it feels like to be that one sheep that went off by itself, and he left the 99 for me. And I will eternally be grateful for that. And I want to share with you so that you have that same experience, that you know that love, because it's amazing. And the peace that it gives you, you really just don't worry about things. Bad stuff's going to happen. Tribulations are going to happen. That's a given. Life has good and life has bad. But you know what? After every storm, the sun comes back out. After every bad situation in life, there's something good coming. And often that bad is a test. Are you keeping your composure? Are you helping others? Are you self-centered? Are you helping other people? How can you lead and govern in the millennial kingdom and beyond if you don't know how to care for others and give back? He's going to give you resources if those resources pass through you and go on to someone else. But if he gives you resources and you hold on to it all and you're stingy, why would he give you more? Do you see what I'm saying? So we need to get out there, do good, And yeah, we fall. And yeah, we have days and years of our life that we're not really proud of. Learn from them. Am I proud of every year of my life? No. I wish I could say I was, but I had some stupid years. But they weren't a waste if I learned from them. Okay. Make the right thing easy, the wrong thing difficult. Live by that. Help others, bring joy to others. Don't, if you can't say something nice, don't say something at all, kind of thing. And if someone's negative, if they're bringing witchcraft into your house, if they're bringing pornography into your house, if they're sending you videos of stuff that just really upsets the spirit, ask them kindly not to. If they continue to do it, then get rid of them. I don't care how long you've been friends. They're not showing you respect if they keep sending you that garbage and they're literally bringing it into your house. So don't let them. I don't want to watch that stuff. I don't want to hear cussing. It just really bothers my spirit now. And the funny thing is, 5, 6 years ago, I had a sailor's mouth. It was awful, not appealing, especially out of a woman. But I was in the military. I was around guys all the time. I picked it up. I didn't think twice about it. And it was not professional. It was not feminine. It was not good. And so I try not to do it anymore. I don't watch secular TV anymore because I don't want to hear all the F this and this and this. It bothers me. I don't need to see sexual stuff. It's not, there's plenty out there on scripture, on gardening, on cooking, on health. That, and really, I want to be doing more than I want to be watching, right? There's players and spectators. I would rather be the player. I'm not a very good spectator. I want to get in and get involved. So, congratulations for those that made 3 days. Going for the fourth day. Make sure you're getting plenty of vitamin D, plenty of magnesium, plenty of electrolytes, plenty of sleep, because that's really when the hard work is being done by your body. Coming out of the fast, bone broth, something easy on your system like eggs, a little bit of fiber, maybe even a little bit of sauerkraut or something, that fermented food, to kind of really reintroduce some new bacteria into your body now that you've depleted all the aged and yucky, bad ones. And just keep at it. Okay. Do the best you can. Keep a journal so that you can go back and see what you've been able to accomplish, because it's real easy to get going and forget that you were even able to do this. So journaling is really, really powerful tool. Write down your prayer requests, write down your goals, your dreams, and ask God to help you on it. You might be very surprised how many of those will actually come true. People talk about vision boards. Well, what are vision boards? They're a visual of your prayer life. And many people have said that they've put a house on their vision board, and 5, 10 years later, that exact house, I mean, down to the details, was theirs. Why? Because we literally manifested in the spiritual world when we do this. And the fight is spiritual. It is not physical. Physical is part of it, and we need to stay strong physically to be strong spiritually. But the fight we're fighting right now is not against flesh and blood, but powers and principalities and rulers in high places. So we want to stay with our army of angels that are looking out after us. And there's 2/3 of the angels are good angels and a third are bad. Okay. And we want to protect our family. We want to protect our homes. We want to protect our own being on a spiritual level. And part of that is also being physically well, right? It's hard to protect your house against intruders if you don't have a lock on the door and a good door. Well, that door is the physical. Okay. That lock is the physical. Our health is the physical. It's much easier to not get sick if we're physically healthy, but there's a big spiritual element to it too. You have to believe that you're not going to get sick. When I had surgery, 15 years ago, I absolutely believed that I was not going to have pain afterwards and I was going to get back to doing things immediately. And it was major abdominal surgery, you know. But guess what? The next day I was doing farm chores. I had to be careful not to overdo it and rip stitches out. But I didn't have pain. Zero, absolutely none. I didn't take any medications. The medications were a far bigger risk to me than not taking them because of a autoimmune disorder that I have, that I can react to just about any medication in a very severe way where, it's anaphylaxis on steroids and it happens so quick, um, that you feel like you're on fire. And every time I see that Chuck Norris uh, advertisement with his wife, and she said she, was poisoned by MRI and she felt like she was on fire, I know what she's talking about. I had that twice. Never again. Not fun. Don't wish it on my worst enemy. So I wish you a very blessed day. Get into the word. If you're in this cold area, remember to keep a faucet dripping and the doors underneath open. Um, Hopefully, you have wrapped all your spigots outside and prepared that way. Have some extra water on hand in case electricity goes out. The South might get a ice storm, and I can tell you that they're horrible, and they really weigh down the power lines and they make them brittle, and it's easy to snap them. If you're using a heated hose, don't wrap it in a coil. I had one and it actually melted together, and I'm lucky it didn't cause a fire. So I learned something on that, and I don't think I'm ever going to use those again. I'm just going to detach the hose and take it inside. And you can use, one of those pocket hoses if you need to, so that it's easy to bring in and out. But hoses like to freeze, and it really sucks when they do. So, and they make cleats, yak tracks or something similar, so that when you're walking on the snow and ice, you get better traction. And I have a pair, and I just didn't put them on my boots, and I should have. So, and walk with a walking stick, okay, so that you have something to lean on and you're less likely to fall. Because falls are really bad news. And I'm very lucky that I'm probably going to get a bruise on my knee and it's skinned a little bit, but whoopee doo, a little road rash. But I don't want to be continuing to do that. I was lucky. I don't want to be doing it again. And I have to go out to the barn, right? I have to feed the animals. I have to check their water. I have to make sure that they're okay. That's just part of my lifestyle. So let's end in prayer. Father, thank you for giving me an opportunity to be in this community, to help them, to share medical and nutritional information with them so that they can live as healthy a life as possible, stay disease free as much as possible, and be warriors for you in this spiritual warfare so that they can go out and glow and be the light on the hill, share your wonderful word, and live by example. I want to help them not eat all the yucky foods and over processed foods that are literally killing us and addicting us, and getting back to the foods that you created. So, Father, thank you. In Jesus' holy name, amen. Have a wonderful day, everybody. I'll talk to you later, God willing. And if something big comes up, I'll be on later today, otherwise tomorrow. And that'll be 4 days of fasting, 96 hours. Hallelujah. Okay, let's do it.